Emma sat on the edge of the living room couch, twisting her sweater in her hands, trying to calm the fluttering in her chest. She thought today would be ordinary, a normal talk about her college plans with her dad, but something felt different. The air in the room seemed heavier, charged with a quiet tension she couldn't explain. Michael, her dad, entered carrying a cup of coffee. His expression was serious, almost distant, and that alone made her stomach tighten. "Emma, can we talk for a minute?" he asked, his voice quieter than usual, careful, hesitant. She nodded, inviting him to sit beside her. The couch felt smaller somehow. The sunlight streaming through the window made soft patterns on the carpet, but Emma hardly noticed. She was focused entirely on him, wondering why he seemed so uneasy. "I've been thinking about you," Michael started, choosing each word carefully. "About college, about your future, but also about other things I haven't said out loud." Emma blinked, confused, expecting advice about classes or scholarships. "Not this. I feel like I've been holding back, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I need you to hear it," he added, and there was a vulnerability in his tone that made her pause. She had never heard her dad speak like this. He had always been steady, dependable, someone she could count on without question. What do you mean?" Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart was racing. She couldn't predict what he would say next. Michael looked down, tracing the edge of his coffee cup with his finger. "I've felt lonely sometimes, more than I let on. I've wished for someone to understand me, someone to really see me," he said softly, and Emma felt a pang in her chest. This wasn't what she expected from a father-daughter conversation. There was something deeply human in his words, something raw and honest. Emma's mind spun, trying to place what she was feeling: concern, curiosity, confusion, maybe even a strange sympathy she didn't fully understand. "Dad." "I don't," she started, but he raised a hand gently, stopping her. "Just listen, Emma. I don't expect you to respond right away. I only needed to say it, to let you know," he explained, and she nodded slowly, trying to process everything. The rhythm of her heartbeat seemed louder than the ticking of the clock in the background. She looked at him, really looked, and noticed lines in his face she had never seen, small signs of tiredness, quiet struggles he had hidden for years, and a vulnerability that was rare for him to show. Emma realized for the first time that her dad was more than just a protector or guide. He was a person with fears, desires, and quiet needs, and suddenly, the simple talk about college plans didn't matter anymore. This conversation was something entirely different, something intimate and fragile. Michael's phone buzzed suddenly, and his expression shifted. He looked away, distracted, a small frown appearing on his face. "We'll finish this later," he said quietly, setting the cup down, leaving Emma with a fluttering heart and a mind that refused to settle. She watched him leave the room for a moment, then sat back on the couch, staring at the sunlight dancing on the floor, feeling a strange mixture of emotions, her chest tight, curiosity racing, worry intertwining with a sense of fascination she didn't expect. She thought about every word he had said, replaying them in her mind, trying to make sense of what it all meant: loneliness, longing, unspoken feelings. The quiet confession he had given her seemed to hang in the air, heavy yet delicate. She wondered why he had chosen now, why he had trusted her with this truth, and a small, unnameable warmth spread in her chest, not from excitement, not exactly, but from the closeness, the connection, the human honesty he had shared. Emma rose from the couch and walked to the window, looking outside at the backyard. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, sunlight filtering through the leaves. The world seemed ordinary, calm, but inside her, everything had shifted. She realized she was seeing her dad in a new way, not just as a parent, but as someone who carried feelings quietly, someone who could be vulnerable and honest, someone who trusted her with a piece of himself. It was a lot to take in, and her mind felt like it was running in circles, trying to understand what this meant for their relationship. She thought about the future, about the conversations they might have, the walls that had always existed between them slowly thinning. She realized she wanted to understand him more, to connect on a deeper level, to bridge the distance that years of routine and everyday life had created, but she also felt a subtle fear, a hesitation she couldn't name, because this new closeness felt fragile, and she didn't know if she could navigate it without changing everything. As the afternoon wore on, Emma stayed by the window, her thoughts a whirlwind, trying to untangle her emotions. Every detail of Michael's words replayed in her mind. She wondered if she had done something wrong, or if she had misunderstood, but deep down, she knew she hadn't. She had felt the honesty, the raw truth, and it had touched something in her heart, something that made her both nervous and deeply aware of the fragile, complicated, and beautiful nature of human connection. By the time the sun began to lower in the sky, painting the room in soft orange light, Emma felt both exhausted and alive, her heart still beating fast, her mind refusing to quiet down. She realized that what had started as a simple, ordinary talk about college had become something far more important, far more profound. It was a conversation about trust, about honesty, about the unspoken things that define relationships, and she knew that nothing between her and her dad would ever feel quite the same again. The next morning, Emma woke with a restless feeling, her mind still tangled in the conversation from the day before. She had tried to focus on her schoolwork, but every page of her notebook blurred as her thoughts circled back to her dad, Michael. She couldn't shake the words he had said, the honesty in his voice, the vulnerability he had shown. It lingered in her chest like a quiet echo. Downstairs, the smell of coffee and toast filled the kitchen, and Emma found Michael already there, leaning against the counter, sipping slowly from his cup. His eyes flicked up to meet hers, warm yet heavy with thought. "Morning, Emma," he said, his voice gentle, but there was something serious beneath it, a quiet weight she hadn't noticed before. She nodded, trying to steady herself. "Morning, Dad," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, and the room suddenly felt smaller, more intimate. "I've been thinking about our talk yesterday," he said after a pause, placing his cup down carefully. "I want to explain more, if that's okay." Emma nodded, her curiosity mingling with a strange nervous energy. Life is complicated, Emma," he continued. "Sometimes people hold back feelings because they don't know how to share them, or they're afraid of the consequences, or they think it's not the right time." She listened closely, hanging on every word. The way he spoke made her feel like he was letting her see parts of himself no one else knew. Emma shifted in her chair, trying to understand. I never thought of you that way, Dad," she said softly, and he gave a small, wry smile. "That's normal, Emma, most people never do, because I've always been the one who gives advice, who protects, who guides, but I'm human too, with fears and regrets and quiet moments when I feel lonely." He paused, his eyes searching hers, and for the first time, Emma noticed a flicker of something deeper, a mix of longing and honesty that made her heart tighten unexpectedly. I want you to know me better," he said finally, and the words hung in the air like fragile glass, delicate and impossible to ignore. Emma felt a flutter in her chest, unsure whether it was fear, fascination, or something she couldn't name. "I care about you deeply, and I've always tried to do right by you, but sometimes I wish you could see all of me, even the parts one hide." His voice was soft now, almost a whisper, and she felt an ache of empathy, of connection, and a strange sense of something more growing inside her. That afternoon, they decided to take a walk in the park, the sky painted with shades of pink and gold as the sun began to set. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of leaves and earth, and for a moment, Emma felt the world shrink to just the two of them, walking side by side, the quiet crunch of leaves beneath their feet breaking the silence. "I never realized how little we talk sometimes," she admitted, her voice small. "I always thought we were close, but now it feels like there's a wall between us I didn't notice before." Michael nodded. "Walls protect us, Emma, but they also keep the things that matter most from getting through," he said, and she shivered slightly at the truth in his words. They walked along the winding path, the breeze brushing past, carrying a quiet intimacy, and Emma realized she had never noticed the gentle strength in her dad, the quiet sadness he sometimes carried. the way he looked at her as if she were more than just his child, more like a companion who might understand him in ways no one else could. A blush crept to her cheeks, and she quickly looked down, feeling something unfamiliar stir inside her. Michael stopped suddenly, turning to her with a serious expression. "Emma, there's something I need to ask you, something important," he said, and her pulse jumped. The world seemed to hold its breath, her mind raced, trying to guess what he could mean. The quiet park suddenly felt too small, too charged, and for a moment, she felt like she might be on the edge of something that could change everything between them. Before she could answer, a jogger passed by, breaking the tension, and Michael exhaled quietly, a small, almost embarrassed smile forming on his lips. "I guess this isn't the right time," he said, and the moment slipped past like sand through her fingers, but the sense of anticipation lingered, a quiet hum of possibility, a tension that made her pulse race in ways she didn't fully understand. As they continued walking, Emma thought about every detail, every word, every glance, the way his voice softened, the subtle gestures, the way he looked at her, and she realized that yesterday's conversation had opened a door she hadn't known existed. She wanted to understand him, to connect, to reach past the walls that had always been there, but a small, cautious part of her whispered that this closeness was fragile, delicate, and new. By the time they returned home, the sky had deepened into shades of purple and blue, the air cooling, and the world outside feeling distant. Michael held the door open for her with a quiet smile. "Thank you for walking with me, Emma," he said, and she nodded, her mind still spinning with the weight of the day, the possibilities, the emotions she couldn't fully name. That night, Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the walk, the conversation, the subtle moments that had passed between them. Her heart raced with a strange mix of hope, fear, and something more intimate, more electric than she expected. She thought about the questions he had hinted at, about what he might ask next, about the unspoken emotions lingering in the spaces between words. She realized she wanted to be closer to him in ways that were complicated, confusing, but deeply human. The thought of tomorrow brought both excitement and unease. She didn't know what would happen, she didn't know if she was ready for it, but she knew she couldn't ignore it. The connection had been made, the walls had begun to shift, and nothing would be the same again. Emma's chest tightened as she closed her eyes, the anticipation of the next conversation, the next glance, the next word, left her breathless, and she realized that sometimes, a simple walk, a simple talk, could awaken feelings and possibilities that nothing else could. Emma lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts refusing to quiet down. The events of the past 2 days replayed endlessly in her mind, her father's words, his quiet honesty, the walk in the park, the pause in his voice when he had said he needed to ask her something important. All of it felt like a storm inside her chest. She couldn't understand everything she was feeling, only that it mattered, and it mattered deeply. Her phone buzzed softly on the nightstand, and she reached for it instinctively, her heart beating fast. Michael's name appeared on the screen, a simple message: "Can we talk tomorrow? Alone?" She stared at it, the words simple, but the weight behind them made her pulse race. She typed a hesitant reply, "Yes," and placed the phone back down, staring at the ceiling again, feeling a mix of anticipation, fear, and curiosity. The next afternoon, Emma found herself downstairs earlier than usual, the living room quiet and sunlit. Michael entered soon after, his eyes soft, but serious, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other, neither speaking, the silence full of unspoken thoughts and emotions. Emma felt her chest tighten. She had never expected a conversation to feel so important, so fragile, yet so powerful. "Emma," Michael began, his voice low and steady, "I know yesterday and today have been complicated. I know my words might confuse you, but I need honesty, from both of us." Emma nodded, unsure what to say, her heart pounding. She could feel the tension in the room like an invisible thread pulling them closer. "I don't want anything to ruin us, but I want you to understand me," he continued, his eyes meeting hers in a way that made her stomach flutter, a strange warmth spreading through her. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. I do understand, more than I expected, she admitted softly. I care about you, Dad, in ways I didn't realize. His hand reached out slowly, hesitantly, resting gently on hers. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver through her, and for a moment, the world felt suspended, as if everything else had disappeared, leaving only the quiet connection between them. Caring is natural, Emma, he said quietly. Sometimes the people you love, the ones closest to you, surprise you with what you mean to them, with the struggles they've hidden, with the feelings they've carried alone. Emma's eyes filled slightly with tears, not from sadness, but from the depth of understanding, the intimacy of the moment, the realization that both of them had been longing for connection, for honesty, for someone to see them completely. They sat together, hands touching, sharing silence, the quiet hum of the house around them. Emma's mind raced with everything they had said, everything they hadn't said, and yet she felt safer than ever. The tension between them softened into something fragile but powerful, something that felt like the beginning of a new understanding, a new chapter in their relationship, one built on honesty, trust, and unspoken affection. I never realized how much I've needed this, Emma whispered, her voice small, to really see you, Dad, to really know you. Michael squeezed her hand lightly, a faint smile on his lips. I've needed it too, Emma. More than I knew. And now that we've started, I don't want to stop. The sun outside dipped lower, casting a soft golden glow across the room, and for a moment, time itself seemed to pause. The ordinary day transformed into something extraordinary, intimate, unforgettable. The hours passed quietly as they talked more about life, fears, hopes, and the small moments they had overlooked in the rush of everyday living. Emma realized that this connection, this understanding, was unlike anything she had experienced before, not with friends, not with anyone else. It was deep, sincere, and tender, and it touched something inside her heart that had been waiting for acknowledgement. As evening approached, Michael stood and stretched, looking out the window at the fading light. Emma followed, feeling the weight of the day settle into a calm warmth. No matter what happens, he said, turning to her, we'll figure it out together. We always have. Emma smiled softly, a tear slipping down her cheek. I know, Dad. I know, she whispered, and for the first time, she felt completely understood, completely seen, and completely connected to him. That night, Emma lay in bed, thinking about everything, the words, the touches, the honesty, the shared moments, and she realized something profound. Sometimes the simplest conversations, the most ordinary moments, could awaken feelings and understanding that nothing else could. She felt a strange mix of relief, hope, and gentle fear, knowing that their relationship had changed forever, in a way that was tender, delicate, and beautiful. As the stars appeared outside her window, Emma closed her eyes, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, a rhythm now shared with the quiet pulse of understanding between her and her dad, a connection that was safe, intimate, emotional, and deeply human. She knew that this was just the beginning, that tomorrow might bring more questions, more discoveries, more moments that would test their courage and honesty, but she was ready to face it with him, together. The days ahead felt full of possibility. Every word, every glance, every quiet shared silence now held a new weight, a new meaning. Emma felt that life had shifted slightly, the walls between them thinner, the bond stronger, and though the path ahead was uncertain, she felt hope, gentle but steady, that their relationship, built on trust, honesty, and deep care, could grow into something enduring, beautiful, and unforgettable. And as sleep finally claimed her, Emma felt the soft promise of tomorrow, a day full of potential, understanding, and connection, knowing that a simple conversation, a walk, a touch, and heartfelt honesty could change everything, that the quiet moments mattered as much as the big ones, and that love, in all its forms, often began with a single brave word spoken between two hearts ready to see each other fully.